Hello and welcome to the first 2011 podcast with TV Central. I'm Aaron Ryan. A very exciting week for Australian television with the launch of a new channel. We will be saying hello to 11 at, funnily enough, 11 a.m. on January the 11th, 2011. Joining me now is Chief Programming Officer at Network 10, Mr. David Mott. David, thanks so much for joining us, and tell us firstly, a mixed week I would imagine, the excitement of launching 11 mixed with the tragic loss of the 7pm Project's Carrie Bigmore's husband, Greg Lang. Just give us an update on how Carrie and the family are doing.
G'day, Aaron, and great to be here. Yes, that was terribly sad news indeed for Carrie, and obviously with the entire Lang family. And our sympathies have really been with her over this time. And in fact, I did duck over to Perth for the funeral service last week, and it just was the right thing to do for Carrie and the family. And I must say that there was an immense amount of support around the family. I know there has been for some time, and Carrie is an extraordinary person, and we think a lot of her and how passionate she is towards the family and also her work as well. And we're going to give her the time that she needs, and when she's ready, she will return. But there's no sort of set date at this stage, as you can understand. But it's a really incredible time and very emotional over there for her. But as I say, when she's ready, she will return.
Yeah, certainly sad news, and we at TV Central extend our sympathies to Carrie and her son. Look, I think it was important for us to mention this, and I have no real way of making a segue into chatting about 11, so I'm just going to ask the first question. Just tell us about the vision for Channel 11. A lot of planning went into it. What did you hope
look,
it would be?
11, it's incredibly exciting. This is the week, and we're absolutely pumped with the 11 team. And we've got a great schedule of programs coming up. Much of it first run, as we said right from the outset. That was our clear brief and strategy, was to ensure that we had content there that we could deliver over a long period of time. And I think that sort of gets us to this point this week, as we really have gone through and established a very, very firm, clear strategy as to how we're going to launch the channel first up, but then obviously to ensure that we have that surety of content going through. And really that was clearly the discussions and ongoing with CBS, our joint venture partners, in ensuring that through them that it had that sort of surety of content. And so we're delighted. The team are working 100% now and have been for some months. But it really came through well over 12 months ago when we started the conversations in identifying that 11 was the place that we wanted to be. Sure. First up, and then looking at where we saw 11 not only today, but certainly in 5, 10, 15 years' time, and we felt therefore it appropriate to bring in a partner with us, and in CBS. CBS was right in that mix because of their fantastic library of content, and as I've said before, 70,000 hours of some of the best library content that will largely fill the daytime schedule. Some of those classic shows that a lot of people are watching elsewhere, and they are proven performers elsewhere, not only in Australia but also overseas. So we've looked long and hard at what the content would be, and so we're delighted to have that there. And then obviously even through that joint venture with CBS, it creates the ability to really come up with an overall strategy and a schedule for the prime time of first run content, with a lot of first run content, and also the ability to do a number of other things within the schedule and across the channel overall to create a point of difference to what the other channels are doing. And I think that's one of the good things that we've had.
Yeah.
We've actually got the benefit of time now to sit back and have a look at what the others are doing. And I think that when you see the rollout this week, it will become very apparent to our approach to the channel. I mean, the first up is obviously the fact that we've gone with the number 11, not with a Go or a Mate or what have you, and certainly not taking anything away from those channels. They have performed exceptionally well, and I think that only puts us in very good stead, and certainly it speaks volumes of free-to-air television overall in terms of the digital take-up and what it means in a multi-channelling sense. But they have been successful, but still from our own point of view, we wanted to create our own position in the market, and so we elected to, we had the Spectrum 11, so therefore why not use it as our brand name? And let's face it, it's only one small button push up from 10, as simple as that, rather than going to 111 or something like that. So
yeah, that's it.
Certainly does provide that opportunity, and for us, and again, as I've said in other areas, that at the end of the day, multi-channelling won't exist. It won't be called multi-channel. They will just all be channels. So an analogue switch-off happens at the end of 2013, that they will just become channels, and each will live and breathe and die on the success of the channel's content. And it's how you position those individual channels. So for us, it was important that 11 was built today that could certainly be a very strong channel for us going forward in the future.
Well, you did mention there having a clear strategy. One of the strategies, I guess, that you had mentioned to the media a couple of months ago, unofficial tagline, I guess, for 11 is "What airs on 11 stays on 11." I'm just wondering if you're prepared to stand by that statement, and if that's the aim of 2011. I ask that because I noticed that The Simpsons is going to be on 10 and 11. Well, at least for a week. I don't know the schedules after that. And I'm hearing Neighbours may be repeated on 10. So is that what airs on 11 stays on 11 going to be the case?
Well, Aaron, strangely enough in this business, and strategies do change. People say things and then do another. But I can absolutely categorically say to you that that was a very firm belief of ours in how we positioned 11. And nothing has changed in that view. So, and again, that's probably one of the reasons why we elected to sort of hold on launching 11 until this time of the year. Obviously, we could well be talking about our new strategy a bit later on, but clearly there was that opportunity that as we moved into creating news content between 6 and 7, that did free up The Simpsons. And so I can absolutely say to you that once we launch our new strategy, that The Simpsons will only be seen on 11. In regard to Neighbours, yeah, there was a bit of back and forward on Neighbours pre-Christmas. We were debating whether we launched it a little bit ahead of 11. We then discussed the simulcast, and then I think the bottom line was that Grant Blackley, Beverly McGarvey and myself all sat down and really decided that the best opportunity for Neighbours and for 11 was to launch it concurrently. So it will be exclusively on 11 and it will not be shown on 10 at all. We are in fact going to do a little encore of Neighbours on 11 the following morning at 8:30am. But again, it will only be seen on 11. And again, that is sort of where we sort of come from when we sort of set up the DNA of the channel, trying to create this real point of difference to the other channels. And again, not taking anything away from the others, but trying to find our reason for belonging in a fairly crowded sort of mix of general entertainment channels, both obviously in a free-to-air sense, but also in pay TV, that we did want to create a channel that could survive the long term by having unique content that does play only on 11, and that is still firmly our view.
Well, let's talk about some of that unique content. The first 2 weeks of programming have been released, and many of the titles that you advertised in the schedule as part of the strategy are all there in that initial lineup: The Simpsons, Neighbours, 90210, The Office, The Cleveland Show, Futurama, Stargate Universe, So You Think You Can Dance, Californication, Next Top Model, Supernatural, Dexter, Smallville. So they're all there. But I
You're
noticed...
selling it well for me. Keep going.
Yes, they're all there. I noticed, though, that if 10 had only shown less than half a season of a show, such as The Cleveland Show, Stargate, 90210, you've chosen to restart those shows from Season 1, Episode 1, and build into the new episodes. But if they had longer seasons, The Office is up to, Season 5, Season 6 or something, that you've decided to start where Channel 10 left off. So is that the strategy?
Yeah, look, pretty much. Obviously, as we launch the channel, we've got some sort of door prizes, as we call it, from our 10 scheduling. And so it was a judgment call that really Beverly McGarvey has made in regard to how we launched those episodes. And yeah, it absolutely makes sense and fully support it. That with a Battlestar, sorry, not with a Battlestar, but with Stargate, that yeah, we only played a couple of episodes on 10, so we sort of thought, well, let's sort of go back to the beginning. And with other series that we're a fair way in, well, then let's just start with the fresh episodes. So there's a combination of both to sort of maximise the episodes, but to also make sure that they launch in the most effective way for the viewers who are coming into the series for the first time.
A few questions about the primetime shows. Of the shows that were announced to be coming to 11, the only few shows that were new or had new episodes that are missing in action from the initial lineup are, I noticed, One Tree Hill, Melrose Place, Dollhouse, and perhaps the US version of The Biggest Loser. Any word on those titles?
Yeah, well, we haven't launched our full season schedule yet, so give us a break. We're certainly getting there. God, you blokes on everything. We're there. We've got our first quarter schedule there. We clearly have a number of episodes up our sleeve that we will have to run for many weeks. If you look at Supernatural, which will then roll through the later series, you've got Smallville. So that's gonna put us in good stead for certainly the first half of the year, given you've got some 20-30 weeks of episodes. And then as we see fit, we'll obviously start to roll out the remaining schedule. But we've certainly got a pretty good idea about what the remaining of the year looks like. But let's just take one step at a time.
Excellent. Neighbours, what expectations do you have for the show, and what can fans expect in 2011?
Pretty much the show that they know and love. And the good thing about Neighbours is a very strong core base there. And whilst obviously it's been a tough one for the show on 10 in the last couple of years, but there's no question that there's a very strong loyal base there, particularly with the target audience for 11. So it absolutely made sense. I'm particularly proud of the fact that we're launching a multi-channel with the first drama series, and I think that says a lot about how we're positioning 11 and our views on multi-channeling. And certainly, really, nothing has changed in terms of the due diligence and processes that we apply to all our shows, and that goes for Neighbours as well. You're going to see some rocking storylines coming up. And our head of drama, Rick Mayer, is well on top of the series, and I think they're in for a fantastic year. In terms of performance, look, we know that as it does with any series, as you launch in summer, then it moves into winter, that the section use will grow, and we have our own sort of views on where we see the numbers initially. And I'm not necessarily going to share those with you now, Aaron, but certainly we have a fairly good idea about where we see the figures and where we want to get to by winter. But certainly no question that it's tonally right for the channel. It's the perfect fit for 11, and we're very excited about the storylines moving forward.
How did you know what the next question was going to be?
About that.
Are we... Look, I've sold all the shows that are currently on. Is there anything else, any other major shows that we can expect on 11, perhaps later in the year or later on?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not going to share those with you now. But
goodness.
no, we've certainly, given the sort of time we've had, we've been very clear in and really establishing a strong portfolio of shows going forward. And let's face it, I mean, you know, the US content, we're in a very strong position with our US studios, with both 20th Century Fox and CBS, and the benefit of those studios in what they bring us with content across both channels is perfect, absolutely perfect. And, you know, when you look at CBS, that produces shows for CBS, your NCISs and Good Wife, and then you've got Hawaii Five-0, which is an absolute blinder. That's a ripper of a show, that one, and with, you know, Blue Bloods coming up and Defenders, they're very broad, very big shows for 10. And then you've got your likes of your sort of 90210s and shows like that also from our CBS deal that fit perfectly on 11. So it really is the best of both worlds for us from that point of view. And likewise with Fox. I mean, the Fox content, we're thrilled when we had that deal back. And you've seen the results of our Fox deal with Glee and Modern Family. There's been a lot of discussion about, Glee, you're going to run second episodes on 11 or reruns on 11. Well, again, for the same principle that what stays on 11, or what plays on 11 stays on 11 is the same principle for 10. And Glee absolutely belongs on 10, as does Modern Family. But obviously with The Simpsons, with Futurama, and there's a number of new series coming through from Fox that you'll see roll out from 11 or on 11 because they tonally are right. So for 10 and 11, we're in the best position going forward to create those big, broad-based shows, family entertainment shows for 10, and then for 11, the cool younger shows. So it really is the best of both worlds, and we are absolutely in the best position with our US content. And then also, sort of dovetailing that, equally important for 11 is our view on domestic content. And I think that Neighbours should not be taken lightly in the investment that this joint venture is making in Neighbours on 11. It is significant, and we think warranted for all the reasons I said before. But it's not going to end there. We obviously, through SPA, we undertook a pitch session, and my executive producers have gone through and done the hard yards in assessing some 300 proposals for potential shows for 11. And we actually have some very good ideas that have actually come out of that. And there was a winner, and we'll be piloting later next week for that program. I won't go into details yet. But again, I think that's just the start of where we see the opportunity for domestic content on 11. So I think, make no mistake, that really, whilst the primary channel for 10 is always going to be the primary channel, I think that with 11, we're certainly well down the path of ensuring that we have the resources, the content, the people, and everything in place to ensure the longevity for the channel, and also in terms of, you know, US content versus domestic content.
Earlier in your response, you were talking about some of the catalogues you have, CBS Library and so forth. Just one question on the daytime lineup. You got shows like Jag, Family Ties, The Brady Bunch, Touched by an Angel, Roseanne, Happy Days, things like that. A real mix of classics and some 90s stuff as well. I'm just wondering what audience you're going for there. I noticed in the morning you've got a sort of a younger skewing show like Seventh Heaven leading into The Love Boat. Just wondering what the daytime strategy is.
Yeah, well, it's the overall target is that sort of 13 to 29 or 13 to 30 audience, as you know. That's largely the prime time, and that sort of goes back to the days of, you know, when you strategically position a channel. But certainly, if we were to position the channel with that demographic for daytime, then I think we all know what the result will be. It'll be way too niche and too young. So the ability of having this CBS library of content there is that we can sort of broaden out slightly. It's still got, it'll be that sort of retro cool, so there's a bit of a TV one in there, I think. So it's a female grocery buyer being obviously a target demographic that sales require.
Sure.
for it to go out and market the audience, because essentially that is the daytime audience. So it's no different to the way all networks really market and program their daytime schedule. If you look at 10 with Oprah and Dr. Phil and Ready Steady Cook, they are all targeted, and Judge Judy and Bold and the Beautiful, they're all targeted towards a female daytime audience, because that is the available audience. So essentially we've taken a similar path there with that daytime schedule, with all those sort of much-loved series and comedies.
I'm just skipping around with questions here. Just one that I'm getting some feedback from, and the blogosphere and stuff like that. The only major feedback I had was about The Simpsons missing from 6 p.m. weeknights. Thinking that you might have done that. Why have you decided not to go with the 6 p.m. Simpsons on 11?
Well, really, because we have the opportunity to utilise the CBS content early evening.
Sure.
And we felt that it was an opportunity to showcase The Simpsons at 7:30, and that's what we've done. There's more of an available audience, and rather than at 6 o'clock, more people are sort of settled in for the evening. So the younger kids can go off and watch The Simpsons and Futurama and Cleveland and shows like that. Then the mum and dad in the house and the older audience of the households can go off and watch MasterChef. So I think the benefit and the sum of all the parts in terms of how we're crafting the two channels absolutely makes sense. So therefore, it did make sense in terms of Simpsons in placing that at 7:30.
Just a question, so I guess we can all know a little bit about how TV works behind the scenes. Notice that 11 has Get Smart and Hogan's Heroes, I guess part of that deal. Both of those shows are screening on Go. How does that work in terms of acquisitions? I mean, can two networks simultaneously acquire the same show, or do Go and 11 have the rights to different seasons or something?
Yeah, no, essentially no. You can't have the same series across multiple networks. That just goes against everything, and that doesn't serve the viewer's interest at all. In regard to Hogan's Heroes, Get Smart, and Frasier as well, which we will now own, that those shows have been running on Go, but only selected seasons or a season. And certainly their rights will run out very soon. So therefore, it's almost a sort of handover, I suppose. But we're absolutely thrilled that those shows are on 11. They've done well for Go, and they've done well in the pay TV environment as well, and there's still an audience out there. So the episodes that we'll have will be a lot fresher episodes, and they haven't been utilised on Go. So
Okay.
they'll be new to 11. They won't be the Go episodes, but certainly the entire franchise of those series will revert to 11 ongoing from now on.
Okay, well, finally, the last question about 11, perhaps the biggest question on everyone's lips, and just wondering how patient you will be with this lineup. Now, I ask that because I'm sure you're aware Nine is very, very trigger-happy with the Go schedule, with amendments being made literally daily, shows being pulled left, right and centre, Big Bang Theory being put in to add demo points and stuff like that. Could this happen with 11, or are you looking at maintaining a much more stable schedule?
We certainly are of the view that we've put our best foot forward with the schedule. Clearly, we're going to be as competitive as the others. So really, it's up to your readers of your site, your listeners of this podcast. It's up to them as to whether a show will survive or not. I mean, that's the bread and butter. There's no reason having a show on the schedule if it doesn't perform. So nothing changes from that point of view. And that may go against the grain of a number who are listening to this. But at the end of the day, that's the business we're in. The good thing about these multi-channels is that you do have the opportunity to give shows more time. And I think that one thing I'll always say about 10, and I think that everyone would agree with this, that we do give shows more time to find their feet, to establish an audience. And I think we've proven that over many years with many examples, and obviously the latest being with the 7 p.m. project and how well that's doing now. That it's early days with the other networks, with everyone, including a number of your listeners and readers of your site who were damning its demise. We really did sort of rise above all that and stay with it because we believed in it. So we'll make those calls as we see fit. If we see potential, if we see there's a trend, then the shows will survive. But I can't absolutely categorically say to you that there won't be changes as we roll out the series. But the good news is that, as I said before, these multi-televisions are giving the opportunity and the space for these shows to roll out. And obviously, with whatever we replace them with, should they not seem fit to be well accepted by the audience, in some respects, that's not our fault. It's the audience for not accepting those shows. And there's a reason why the ratings are low. It's because they haven't been accepted, and therefore they should be taken off. Now, obviously, television's a very subjective world that we live in, and people have their individual tastes. You've only got to read the blogosphere and what people have to say, and everyone has individual taste. At the end of the day, we do have to be something for as many people as we can, particularly in our target demographic. But again, as I said, that 10 is very respectful for our audience, or we try to be. And I know that's very subjective, but we will always give shows time to find their feet. But I must say that we'll always make the change should we see it necessary.
Well, plenty of excitement with the launch of 11. Can't wait. Judging by the forum chats across many Australian websites, neither can the fans, especially the Wednesday animation night, hearing a lot of talk about that. Firm favourite.
There's a lot of good things there, and I think the other thing worth mentioning is that, again, when we talk about the sort of difference between the other channels is we've had a long look at the audience of where we see 11, and yeah, you're right, the animation night is really strong. We haven't spoken about Labby and Stav. We do see the opportunity to add a multi-layered approach to 11, and we're actually going to have the sort of face of 11 being Labby and Stav, and these two guys do breakfast radio for B105 up in Brisbane, very successful, and we made the decision, and again, it's an investment in the channel as well, to create an opportunity to have a face of the channel, and these guys will be hosting couch time between 4 and 6:30 Monday to Friday. They're going to launch the channel. They will be there at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. I was up in Brisbane on Friday as we laid down the first hosting segments, and they're a real talent. These guys are an absolute find, and we certainly haven't seen. I think what we're seeing is only the beginning of this duo team, and we are thrilled that they are part of the network. And part of that is going to be the sort of social engagement, where we see 11, and it's going to be through the iPhone. We're launching an iPhone app on Tuesday.
Yes.
For 11, and also through the iPad, what have you. And it certainly goes to prove that with the technology take up of digital television receivers and set-top box, but also with the extensions through iPad and iPhone, that we're going to embrace all of those technologies, and our viewers will have the opportunity to fully engage with the channel in more ways than just a kind of broadcast sense. It's very much a lean-forward approach that we're taking to the channel. They'll contribute in a number of ways, and that will become more evident as the channel rolls out. But certainly I can say to you that within the couch time segments, our audience will have the ability to tweet and have their comments live between 4 and 6:30 Monday to Friday. And there'll be another level of engagement that we're going to roll out. But certainly it's the sort of, it's almost a three-screen approach that we're taking to 11. And we've had a good look at what the others are doing. They've got some great shows on their broadcast channel, but there's very little happening in the digital space in terms of those digital extensions that we're talking about, and we're really going to exploit those to their full potential.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to forget the launch date. I don't think you possibly could. 11 a.m., 11th of January, 2011. So that's likely not to be forgotten. Let's move to the main channel. But before we look at the 2000...
Can I mention one more thing about 11?
Yes, of course.
And that was just in regard to... and it's only because I watched it this morning, but we're bringing to 11 a new late night television show, a new late night host from the US in the Late Show with Craig Ferguson, or the Late Show with Craig Ferguson, and again this is through our CBS arrangement. Craig is Scottish. He's hilarious, and he is an absolute fan of the channel. And even to the point where his first show, or our first show at 11, we really wanted to sort of create a bit of a statement, and rather than just run sort of an episode of something for daytime, we felt it was important to a bit of a showcase. So our first show is going to be Craig Ferguson, and what I'm thrilled about is that through CBS they approached Craig, and he's actually Australianised the first episode. And his opening monologue is one of the most hilarious monologues I've heard in a long time from any late night talk show host. And he does talk about 11, and throughout his show he throws in certain Australian references. So he's really embraced it, and you're going to see a lot more of Craig, and obviously he's going to play out Monday to Friday at 10:30. But thought that was worth throwing in there, the level of interest. So 11's gone global.
Yes. I did see that on the web that he was throwing in quite a few Australian references. I didn't realise it was quite to the mass as what you're saying it is. But it should be good. 10:30 weeknights.
That's it.
Before we move on to the main channel, just a quick wrap up of summer. You did finish off Rush, and you did finish off Recruits. Outrageous Fortune will be finished in a couple of weeks. So that just leaves 3 programs on the fence. First one I have to mention because it's one of my favourite shows on TV, summer or non-summer, and that's White Collar. I love it. If it runs until January the 19th, only 7 episodes would have screened. Will that be continuing, or is that going to be off for a little while?
Jesus, you blokes are too close to this, I tell you. You might be right, but who said we're going to finish it then?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Well, and I'm not going to tell you. But we're certainly in the throes of finalising our schedule at the moment. Look, that might be a lie. Maybe we have finalised it. But,
of course you have.
Look, what White Collar's done, yeah, maybe we have. But White Collar's actually done a very good job for us. I reckon it's only a summer show, though. And we'll continue to assess its suitability elsewhere in the schedule. It's a long year. There's a lot of days. There's a lot of weeks. So it's nice to have it there as on the reserve bench when someone gets injured. So we'll just see how it rolls out. But it's a good little show. I'm with you. I like it as well. But let's just see how the year plays out.
Going to get the same response with Rules of Engagement?
Yeah, probably. Again, I think it's a good fit for 10 for summer. And look, that's not a bad thing for everyone who's, basically it's better than running reruns all over summer. And I think that, things have changed now. And, if you've got a summer show there that fits the bill, then why not? At the end of the day, it's a 52-week year in terms of, it's a lot of content, a lot of hours to fill. So, the days of summer as we know it are a thing of the past. We're still looking at the ratings every day, sadly, and so, nothing changes. So Rules of Engagement, yeah, but again, let's just see how it goes. Yeah, it's actually done a pretty good job on the Sunday night.
And the last one, which was a new US series that you fast-tracked, Raising Hope, which is hilarious. How did you track that over summer, and perhaps is that continuing?
I love Raising Hope. I think it is hilarious. And I was a fan of the show when we saw it in the US. I love My Name is Earl, and it's from the same producers. And the show's actually got better and better. And we've been tracking it really closely over summer, and it's done a good job. And it's certainly punching above its weight in its target demo. Again, I wouldn't say we have an embarrassment of riches, but it's sort of one that kind of probably sits on the bubble. But nice problem to have. And let's just see how it how the year rolls out. But I certainly think it's got a role to play on the 10 schedule.
Excellent. Yeah, very funny show. Okay, the 2011 lineup. Let's start with the international shows. Now you've got NCIS, NCIS LA, Lie to Me, Good Wife, House, Undercover Boss USA, Glee, and Modern Family, all back with new episodes. First up, I believe. Would it
Have
be
we?
fair? Well, I believe so.
All right. Well, you're okay. I'll take your word for it.
If that was the case, would
If
it be
that was the case.
yes? Would it be fair to say that that this year is probably the best selection you've had for US product in output deals when you take into account these existing shows and of course the new shows that you've got?
Absolutely. I've got to tell you that over my years at 10, and I've had many long, dark flights back where I'd almost drink the bar clean from the air hosties from what we got out of the US, which was literally nothing. And it started to turn us around probably when NCIS came through. It was interesting. CBS, or Paramount as it was known then, there was CBS and then there was Paramount, and then they merged. And Paramount didn't have an actual exclusive deal for any broadcaster in Australia, so we made a bit of a beeline for them. And we had a few dud years there, but we forged a very strong relationship with them, and I have a lot of time for Les Moonves. I think he's a brilliant architect of television, and I was going to put I was on his side, and I felt that if he's running CBS, and when they soaked up Paramount, that made enormous sense for us to strengthen our relationship with CBS. And so we had Columbia all those years ago, Sony Columbia, and they were great for 10, and then they just dried up and they got out of the television game. So those long, dark days of flying back from LA with absolutely no shows was tough. And we then had to obviously move very heavy into domestic content. So long story short is that, we're in a much better position now with CBS and with Fox. And again, it was great to have Fox back. Those dark days was when we didn't have Fox, didn't have CBS, we didn't have Columbia, we had nothing. So for us now, I reckon we're in really good shape. We've got some good comedies, some good dramas, all the returning shows that we want to come back have come back. So away we go. And we've got a couple of fairly strong domestic shows in there as well. So I think in terms of diversity for 10, I think it's probably going to be the strongest schedule that we could possibly put forward at this point in time for many, many years.
Two new series that are possibly starting soon. Blue Bloods and Hawaii Five-0. How are you finding their tracking overseas? And I gather you perhaps watched a couple of episodes of that. So how do you think they're going?
I absolutely have. The benefit of the Christmas break was to catch up on all the episodes. I've seen every episode of Hawaii that's gone to air and of Blue Bloods. I'm a huge fan of both. They're both very different shows. And Hawaii Five-0 is an absolute standout. It's some of the best scripts in terms of how they've established those characters, and with some fantastic action. It's almost as if they've really heightened and increased the budget and really given it a lot more energy. And the show just gets better and better. And I absolutely love it. And Blue Bloods, very different show. Tom Selleck, the return for him for television. He did a bit of a stint on Friends, and that went down very well. And I think there'll be strong expectations for the return of Blue Blood with Tom Selleck, and Donnie Wahlberg as well is in the mix, and great ensemble. It's that multi-generational family of cops that really does. Tony, they got it right with the A story every week, but then this underlying B story there. It's a solid, good-looking show, and slightly broader than where Hawaii Five-0 sits, but absolutely both in the sweet spot of where 10 should be. And again, it helps to confirm our position of 10 and 11 in where we view both networks. But they're great shows, and there's no question that they're going to be renewed for a second season. they're an absolute slam dunk.
Blue Bloods, I would have thought particularly is doing well overseas because it's getting 10 million viewers, which is above average, but that's actually on a Friday night, where viewing levels are traditionally lower. So 10 million viewers on a Friday night. It's now moving to a new slot because it's doing so well on Friday night. It's going earlier in the week on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, I think. So yeah.
So Wednesdays on CBS off the back of Criminal Minds. And you're absolutely right that maybe you'd like to be a programmer, Aaron. But that show is on a Friday night. 10 million. It's actually doing more than that, like 10, 11, 12 million on a Friday night. Is on a 17 or 18 million on a Monday night. So it's been the real standout. But it's just a solid looking show. And we think it's absolutely going to find a place on the 10 schedule. I mean, there's no easy time slots, and it's getting harder and harder. But it's a good looking show. Again, with that and Hawaii 5-0, I think we've had the best 1 hour dramas out of the US this season by a long way.
Well, those two shows will begin very shortly on 10 inverted commas, maybe, because you can't confirm that. Yeah. I'll say that, and then I'll stand by that too. We'll see what happens with the Australian product. You've got Bondi Rescue talking about your generation, Good News Week, and Biggest Loser families starting with new episodes very soon. Tell us more about the Biggest Loser and its format this year and how it will be scheduled.
Well, I'm not going to reveal our schedule at this point in time. That would
just mean in terms of strip.
But in terms of Biggest Loser, I was at a screening yesterday and viewed the first week, and it absolutely works. And we had a lot of issues last year with the show. It actually ended really well. We got off to a rocky start. With a particular issue with one of the contestants, and we had to edit 2 weeks worth of shows down to 2 nights. That was a challenge, and there's no question it was a challenge for the viewers as well because they didn't have a clue what was going on, and nor do we for that matter. But it was a tough one, and look, the producers did the best job they could, but it was a tough one, the shows reverted to Shine for the first year, who were the originators of the production of the format, and they have put an enormous amount of work into the series, and I think what you're going to see this year is something quite special, and we've been teasing it over summer, and I was really happy with the first week, and like all these shows, they grow over time, but we've got some pretty amazing challenges that we're going to set with them. Some that we may have been leaked already, but there's a few that obviously can't because they're still filming at the moment, and they'll hear about them. But there's a couple of biggies coming up, so I'm really happy with the schedule. Yeah, the actual number of hours might be adjusted slightly, but predominantly you're still going to have a lot of weeks there of Biggest Loser. But the benefit is that we've got a lot of shows now to run at 7:30, and but at this point in time with Biggest Loser, it's a great series going forward, and also obviously with Generation, that's going to be back at the start of the year as well, and we're about to go in pre-production with that. Granada have done a great job, and what I love about how Granada have embraced this series is that they don't rest on their laurels at all. They are always looking for ways to improve the series and come up with bigger stunts and more games, and that show has always been special to us, given that it was an idea that came to us on paper, and right from the start it's been sort of visualised from the get-go with no format from overseas. So that's been a good one, and that's going to be there as well as Good News Week. And yes, Bondi Rescue, which we're currently filming, and there's been some great activity on Bondi Beach. So overall, yeah, very happy with what we've got on offer for the first half of next year or this year.
I know you can't go into too many details. It's a little bit in advance, but the Renovators. I mean, that's been touted as one of the biggest Australian productions ever. I mean, what little piece or teaser can you give us about that show?
We're currently auditioning for contestants. In fact, my head of factual, Dafford Williams, is currently interstate as we are going through and finalising our contestants. Look, there's some great space with that home renovation market, and it's been one that we've been keen on for some time. Obviously, with the success of MasterChef, we really wanted to create a show in that lifestyle space. So we tried to find, the next world that we could exploit, I suppose, and to really capitalise on. That's something that people lived and did almost every day. And let's face it, a person's home is their castle. And it was with that simple notion that we felt that there was absolutely something in the home renovation market. So with conversations again with Shine, who really were the creators, or who were really behind the success of our version of MasterChef. With no question they were the success behind our version of MasterChef, that we felt it right to talk to them about coming up with something that was along those lines. And what they came up with was renovators. And it's going to be big, absolutely big. And it's not something that you've seen in this market or in any market for that matter. And it will be on multiple nights. I won't give too much away more than that. And obviously, it will be a handover from MasterChef to lead us into well and truly into the second and third quarters of 2011.
Lovely. Another show that was in the, production schedule is a program called Class of. Are you able to tell us sort of what that show is?
Yeah, Class of was a format that my team found. Beverly McGarvey, myself, and Stephanie Neville, our European correspondent, were at a MIP television market, which many of your listeners and readers will probably be aware of. It's one of two television markets in Cannes in the south of France. And we sat in a session of a pitch session with a number of broadcasters on various shows, and it was a Sunday morning, and it was something that it was very early on a Sunday morning, and we were keen to hear what was around, and there's a lot of shows that you just wouldn't even give a second thought to. And it was probably about an hour and a half into the session, and suddenly this woman got up on stage in this auditorium, and it's from public television in Sweden, and just sort of spoke about this format they did called Class of. And she was sort of talking about it, and we sort of looked at each other and said, "Oh, this sounds quite interesting." And then they ran the teaser tape, the sizzle for it, and we just both couldn't. All three of us couldn't believe it, and we all had the same expressions on our face, and which was, my God, this is fantastic. And we within an hour we had tracked down the distributor of the format and had secured a deal for the format in this market. And at the end of the day, that's what you've got to be when you believe in something. You've got to get onto it, otherwise it's going to you'll absolutely miss it. And so we secured the format, and we then had to decide on the production company. We went with Shine only because of Jamie's Kitchen Australia. It is an observational documentary series. It's very honest. It's as it is. It's not constructed in any way like a MasterChef, Biggest Loser, or Renovators. Very different shows. So it does need that sensibility to it. And we just felt that world of academia hasn't really been exposed to television. We thought it was a really important piece of television. We thought it was very timely through the government initiatives here with the My School website activity. And let's face it, when you've got a broad audience out there with children, there's a lot of interest. And having three kids myself, most who are at school, the amount of time they take in terms of studying and the level of interest that us as parents have in our kids with their well-being and how they are doing at school, we thought this was really, really timely. So we've now gone through the due diligence with Shine, and we're now in a position to be in pre-production very, very soon on the series. But it's one that I'm very proud of because I actually think that it's because it hasn't been done before, and I think it is going to strike a chord and potentially sort of rock the system for education here, which I think is certainly timely and certainly needed.
Lovely, and because it's a brand new concept, I guess that means it's you're going to, when it comes up later on, you're going to put it out there. Everyone's going to say that's not going to work. How could that possibly work? And it'll work just fine. And then that's usually what happens now with some of those 10 programs, isn't it?
Well, I think that I don't know if that's particularly true. Look, I think at the end of the day, I think that everyone's got their own thoughts and views on shows and how they roll out. And you're probably using the MasterChef example there. And yeah, that was obviously
Big Brother.
Just the way the market's been. Oh, Big Brother to a lesser degree. I know that Idol, that people would sort of pass up on Idol, and if it was actually deal somewhere else. But there's no easy way out with television. You are absolutely not going to get it right all the time, and it is just a roll of the dice. And you do look at experience of what's come before it, but I suppose a lot of it is the sort of gut feel. But television is a very subjective place, and the only thing I'd say is that you've got to leave your own personal views out the door, because it just doesn't come into play when you're thinking about what the greater population of Australia want to watch.
Sure.
So there's all those things. But the other thing I'd say about Class of is that we had our upfronts late last year, and the response to the sizzle was extraordinary. In fact, the response from an advertiser's point of view has been fantastic, and we're securing a number of sponsors now for the show. In fact, Renovators and Class of have been very well received from the point of view of advertisers. So if that's any gauge, then I think we've got something there that could be quite special for both those shows.
A quick one. One website has Inside Out as a 2011 production on 10. I thought that show had sort of slipped off the radar and fizzled out. Is that back, or is?
We actually never said it was in production. We said it was in development at our upfronts. I think it was just you guys that seemed to get a bit of a head of steam, and not just saying you personally, but certainly with other websites. It's a world that I particularly think is a great world to play in, and we continue those conversations in regard to Inside Out, but it's still in that development phase at this stage.
Okay. Sorry, I just had thought of another program that you put a bit of publicity into, and it's been on the news, and I didn't mention it, and that was the Can of Worms with Dicko. Is that still ready to go soon, or?
That's absolutely confirmed. We're ready to go. I've got to say that when Andrew Dicko and Dicko's manager and partner David Wilson and Anita Jacoby came in, who's also who's Andrew's partner in his business, came in and pitched Can of Worms. We just said yes straight away. And again, I think that it was one of those shows that we thought was right for the audience at this point in time. Again, it's something that hasn't been done before. And is it brave? Well, everything you do in television is probably brave, but it's certainly considered as one that we think has a real chance. It does address what we would call the elephant in the room on topics and subject matters. It's absolutely fantastic. And it is the brainchild of Dicko. He and I go way back, and it's one that I think can really strike a chord. And it's sort of a cross between Brew and Transfer and Q&A, probably, are the two analogies that I would draw in it. And we're going to be sitting down with Andrew and Anita and Dicko again very soon to finalise our plans, but we're certainly pre-production is certainly in our thinking at this stage. We've given the go-ahead for the series, and it will certainly be on air this year.
Lovely. Look, I did have some questions to ask you about a status update on a number of shows, but I just thought I might actually condense that and just ask about two of them, because fans do ask. I did ask Bev back in December, but we'll try again. Medium, cancelled, 11 episodes to screen down under. Can we expect those anytime soon?
No, no.
No, there's an honest answer right there.
No, there's nothing more than what Bev mentioned to you late last year. Things have not changed yet, and we continue to assess and find. I know it's for Medium. It's one of my favourite shows as well, but no, when we can find a home, we will.
Okay, and also recruits. Have you said yes to a third series? Is that happening or?
Recruits is certainly one that we're looking at the moment going forward. It's a great brand for the network, so we do think it belongs on 10.
And just finally, rather than sort of go through all these programs, I mean, because I think in some press releases this has already been announced, so it'd be fair to say Undercover Boss Australia, Rush, Offspring, Bondi Vet, Keeping Up with the Joneses, and the final season of Criminal Intent, they're all obviously part of the...
Yeah, we're all coming back, absolutely.
Sometimes.
Really proud of all those shows, and certainly Undercover Boss is one show that the team at 10 found in the UK with the format. So we had the format knocked away some time ago, but and then CBS grabbed it, and so we've had the benefit of having the format ourselves, and we felt that Southern Star were the right production partners for them, and they did an absolutely outstanding job with it. So it's been a good one for us. And so, yeah, you'll see another series of Undercover Boss Australia. And, Bondi Vet, I mean, Chris Brown is just well established now, not only with 7pm, but also his own show. And even the summer series is doing exceptionally well, winning its time slot. So that's been a good one. And Keeping Up with the Joneses, there's a lot more episodes of that going forward. So, yeah, so it's a strong stable going through the year.
So those ones that we've mentioned will return along with MasterChef Australia, Merlin, Burn Notice, Cops and Junior MasterChef, and they'll be on air in 2011. So yeah, pretty strong lineup there with all-round good mix of comedy, drama, reality, obdocs, Australian overseas shows. So, I mean, is it cliche to say that this could be the strongest lineup yet for 10?
Look, every broadcaster says that every year, and I think that best that we'll leave it up to the viewers to decide that, and I think everyone has their own opinions, but certainly we're very happy with, as we scope out the entire year, that it's in pretty good shape, and I think that where we're sort of positioning both channels now, and obviously with one for those unique sport lovers, and also with how we're seeing 10 positioned and 11, as I said before, I think that for some of all the parts, it gives us a very strong family and sort of suite of channels to market. So I'd have to say that we're in a pretty good position going forward. Not only today as we move into the survey year, as we start to roll out these shows, but as we sort of set the foundations for the long term. And I think that both, particularly with 10 and 11, I think that the way we position those channels does set us forward in a very positive way with unique content across both, which again is going to position us very differently to the other channels. But certainly with 10, I think that, arguably in anyone's guess that with the success we had with our domestic shows last year, and I don't think we had too much fail. In fact, I don't think we had anything really fail on us. We've had a great year domestically, and that's really my full respects to our executive production team and head of programming, Beverly McGarvey, and the production companies that produce the shows for us. We've had an absolutely outstanding year domestically. So with those shows and with the US series coming through, I think we're in pretty reasonable shape.
Well, finally, let's just very quickly cover the new early evening news programs. 10 News at 5, very strong and being left untouched. When you were thinking about running these new early evening news programs, was there any talk of removing 10 News at 5? I can't imagine there would be, but...
We looked at every scenario, and look, it's probably fair to say that... and again, it is worth touching on, so people, fully understand the kind of rationale and strategy behind it. There is no doubt that in anyone's language, we've had to make the change. we observed and looked at broadcasters right around every market around the world almost, in sort of looking at what all the alternatives would be. We've had great success with the 10 News at 5 for many years. That change was made long before I arrived at 10, and it's been one of the single most successful shows on the schedule, and with a great team. And I think that the product has been first class at 5 o'clock. But you know, that strategy was sound and was absolutely right. But let's face it, that strategy came into a place before this thing called the World Wide Web, and pre-pay TV and pre-multi-channeling. So that alternative strategy at 6 o'clock clearly absolutely worked for many, many years. But certainly a few of us at 10 realised that that wasn't going to be the strategy long term, and the fact that we will have to make a change. And that time is now. And with the benefits of launching 11, really create that opportunity of then going, okay, well then let's look at the alternatives at 6 o'clock. And the most logical move is having news content between 6 and 7. It's what people want to see when they come home, and it makes sense certainly for the 10 audience to have that news content there. Then once we made that decision, and I can tell you that we looked at all options, Biggest Loser at 6 o'clock, moving all those constructed reality shows, but they're expensive shows to have at 6 o'clock, and they're on for 13 weeks, and then what do? We looked at game shows. We've got a whole range of things. At the end of the day, what people want to see is news when they come home. They want to know what's going on with news and with the events of the day. So we made the decision to then go with news. We looked at a whole range of options there. And yeah, we did discuss whether we left the news at 5 o'clock, but we've invested a lot in news at 5 o'clock, and we sort of looked at the US scenario really, and saw the opportunity of what they have, almost rolling news services from 4 o'clock in the afternoon right through till 7 o'clock.
Right.
And so we've looked at that and said, well, there's no reason why that style of scheduling can't be something that wouldn't work in this market. And so we've taken the view of keeping the news at 5 o'clock. If we moved the news from 5 o'clock, then others would occupy that space. So we weren't that silly. So we're going to maximise that audience there, and then feed an audience through to 6 o'clock and 6:30. If you look at both of those shows, the George Negus at 6 o'clock and with the 6:30 news, we just address the 6:30 news first. Very strong view we have that the current offerings at 6:30 are almost least objectionable. I personally think they've lost their way, and I think that they're only really gathering an audience by default, because there's really nothing else on for that news savvy audience, or that broader audience. So we thought there was a real opportunity to create an updated news service at 6:30, and also because there's a lot of people who aren't home at 6 o'clock, and we looked at the numbers really closely and saw that every 20 minutes to half an hour there's almost 1 million new people coming home. So if you roll home at 6:15, 6:20, you've missed the news, and your only next option is 7 p.m. Project for updates. And there's no question that show is now well and truly established itself and is there to stay. Or the ABC News, and obviously you have the more with the modern channels with the ABC 24-hour news service, which is a very solid service as well. But on the main primary channels, there is nothing on the ABC at 6:30, and 2 very similar looking tabloid current affairs shows. So we saw a real opportunity there. So I think that was an absolute no-brainer. There at 6:30, and so away we go, and we've resourced that up, and that's going to be an updated with the absolute latest news at 6:30, and with the various local presenters in every market, and we're obviously going local in every market with that news bulletin, and then that leads us to 6 o'clock. And we know and appreciate the strength of the current news services at 6 o'clock. They're they're actually very good bulletins, very, very strong news bulletins that both 7 and 9 put out, despite your own personal preferences, but they're good bulletins. So rather than go head-to-head with like for like, we elected to go down a slightly different path and create a point of difference. So and it can sort of feed off our 5 o'clock news. So you've actually got your news today at 5 o'clock, and then we'll go into more detail with our 6 o'clock program with George Negus. George is an absolute standout, and we are absolutely so thrilled to have him and agreed to come on board. And chatting to him not that long ago when we were getting him over the line to do the program, and he's obviously enjoyed his time on the 7 p.m. project very much, and he thought that was breaking brave new ground in presenting current events, and for him and for us, the 6 p.m. project with George Negus was the next one. So we are potentially breaking new territory. And people have asked, gee, it's risky. Well, it's always, television is risky, but this one's a considered risk. We know that this will take time. Jim Carroll, head of news, has brought together a terrific team of people both behind the camera and in front of the camera, and very happy with the way that's coming together. And we think that over time, that hour can improve our performance in 6 to 7 and can resonate with an audience. But we do know that this is all about habit. It's something that we said about the 7 p.m. project, and again, it's something that we will say with between 6 and 7, because it's absolutely true. You can't just break people's habits overnight, and we know that something will define the show. Having George there at 6 o'clock gives us great awareness. He's got the experience, he's got the respect, and then we've got a lot of the new journos coming through who have got some great energy, and I know that's taking a line out of one of our promos, but it's absolutely true. And one of the things that George said to us at the time we were talking to him was that, David, no one's asking the question why in news, and I think that's absolutely right. And that's what we'll do. So you'll come into 6 p.m. with George Negus, you'll absolutely get the news of the day. You will not feel underdone or left out. In fact, you'll be far better informed, because we're going to take those top 5 or 6 stories and give you more detail about the why. So as news consumers, you will have a lot more information by the end of our news services, and then you get a further update at 6:30, and particularly with new consumers coming home who maybe missed 6 o'clock, and then you've got the 7 p.m. project which kind of brings an end to your current affairs and news offerings for the night. So you've got your full sort of portfolio of news programs, ending with the 7 p.m. project. That sort of lighter tone gives you a bit more of a background, a lighter touch to the news as you head into your entertainment schedule. So it absolutely makes sense, and we're unwavering in our commitment to that strategy. And we think over time it's going to strike a chord. But we're also realists in knowing, and we've been around long enough to know that these things are going to take time. And as we did so with the 7 p.m. project, we're unwavering with that, and we've proven that to be right, and we'll be proven right with this strategy over time.
Very thorough answer. Look, I'll just give a quick rundown, a nice little promo for you of that news lineup. It's at January 24th, so 10 News at 5 will continue at 5 p.m. as local bulletins around the country. Then 6 p.m. with George Negus, 6:30 evening news. They again will be local bulletins in each market, and the 7 p.m. project at 7 o'clock.
Is that the date, is it?
Well, that's the date you've announced.
Oh, okay. Righto. Good on you.
Surely in some of the publicity material that's gone out...
You never know. You never know. But I run with you on this occasion.
Okay, so let me ask you one final question to wrap up this podcast. Overall, the 2011 lineup, what are the highlights? What are you most looking forward to or most proud of?
I'll tell you at the end of 2011 what I'm most proud of, but I think that at the moment you'd have to say that for 10 there is great diversity of content there. Again, for the things we said, I love Hawaii Photo and Blue Bloods. I think they're absolute standouts, and let's not forget a little show called Defenders that's just going to sneak through the schedule as well at some point throughout the year. But I think that right across the board with big family entertainment on 10, I think we're in really good shape there. And you know, MasterChef, we're well in production there, and that's looking good. And I think that Biggest Loser is going to surprise people on the upside.
Okay, well, just a final comment, I guess. As I gaze into the crystal ball, I see that 2011 is going to be the biggest ever evolution for Network 10 in terms of product, branding, news and current affairs, and multi-channeling. You're a programmer that's taken many risks in the past, but this year it is not just one program like it was with MasterChef or Big Brother, but rather a whole brand, a whole schedule, and a whole new channel. So on that point, I say no pressure. Good luck, and well done on being innovative with these changes, and thanks for joining me today, and perhaps at Easter we can chat again about how it's all been going so far.
Thanks, mate. Always happy to do it at any time, Aaron, and appreciate the time to give us the time to talk about 10 and 11. But all things going well so far.
David Mott, Chief Programming Officer at 10 there. Thanks so much. You asked for it, you got it. More podcasts in 2011 coming.